Well, this morning I packaged up all the pictures ready to go off to America, so they're going to be sent off tomorrow. And now I'm going to start on another painting. Let's get going. What we need to do now is get this to look like this. Shouldn't be too difficult. I'm thinking it's probably no more than about an hour at the most worth of work, probably even less than that. It is in the distance. It's not going to need to look quite as detailed as the photograph because we have got a lot of detail in the foreground of the picture, so we can have that looking a little bit softer. A little bit less involved, so that's what we're going to do now, and we'll get this whole hillside in here and here. Okay, let's get going on that then. Well, first things first, we're going to just go over the whole thing with oil, just making sure we're getting everything in the right place, because there's some shadowy areas on the hillside here, and of course there's loads more details in there which, you know, we'll softly put in, but we just want to get that roughly the right colour. It's not a million miles out now, so we don't have to do too much, but I'm just going to add to what's there. So mixing in with the paint that I already mixed for the sky, I'm mixing in a bit of black, a little bit of that green, which is phthalo green yellow shade. Never know how to pronounce that. A little bit of white spirit just to get it moving. Just aiming to get as near to that colour as we can. So every time I mix a little bit of paint, I'm holding it up to the subject matter just to see if it's roughly where we need to be. It's a little bit too dark, so I think we can do with lightening it a bit. Let's see how that is. Okay, not a million miles out. I think it needs to be a bit cooler, so I'm adding some cerulean blue in there. Now what we've done there is we have made it cooler and we've darkened it slightly. I don't mind it being a little bit darker than what's there, because when I come to put some of the highlights in, it will give you a general appearance of it being lighter anyway, but that is a bit too much. Go again. There we go. That's roughly right. A bit more white spirit, let's get that moving on there a bit more. We're putting it on thin, there's no thickness to it at all. And that will dry pretty quickly with the white spirit. Lightening it a little bit more. So that's probably more like it, because what you've got there is a cooler green. And I really want that mountain at the back there to look as if it's further back than the greens that we're going to put in front. So to do that, we cool it down. Okay, that's there. Change the brush to a slightly smaller one. Now I'm looking for that darker shaded colour there. It's a fair amount of sort of blue and mauve in it. And once again, we can refine it all as we go. Don't want it to be too saturated, so it is more of a sort of a grey really, rather than a bluey purple. And that goes something like that. There's another Another one sort of just up here somewhere, and then another slightly bigger one that comes in like that. Now, as I say with pretty much all of my work, this hillside doesn't have to be exact. I'm not looking for it to be exactly the same. I might leave little bits out, I might put little bits in. Colours might not be identical, but you know what we're looking at is the overall picture. The picture as a whole, once it's finished, is it going to be pleasing to the eye? If it is, and the trees aren't quite the same, the branches are at a slightly different angle, then that doesn't really matter. Because with this style of picture, we're just trying to get something that looks real when it's not being compared to a photograph. So, I mean, the undercoat was dry, so this is wet. This is wet, now working wet on wet here, but the layers I've put in are so thin that it's not going to affect too much the colour I'm going to put on the top. And it's going to start getting tacky as we go. So I'm quite pleased with the colour of that now. There are some darker areas in there, but we're now going to just sort of start to refine certain aspects of it. And as you can see, I'm actually doing it quite quickly with a small brush. It's working quite well. Just getting it roughly in the right place. Right, so now one thing that I sometimes do, or one technique that seems to work quite well for the distant trees, is to find, or is to use more of a sort of a messy hog brush. So I've got two here which have certainly seen better days but work very well for fine detail. And I've got this one which is a bit rougher than that one. I might use this one, see how it works. I'm just going to brush, almost like a dry brush, some detail onto the hillside here. We'll see how it goes. So probably not going to be, it's not going to be a massive amount thicker than it was, but it's going to be maybe a little bit thicker, the paint. And I'm really just going to try and sort of rub it on. I mean, that's too much. A bit more white. So we don't want it too dark. And I'm just really dabbing it on. I'm picking up, sort of scraping up with the brush. I'm pushing upwards to pick the paint up, and that gives you a nice amount of paint on the tip of the brush. And I'm just sort of dabbing it on, and it's just giving you a very fine sort of stipple. So now I'm just going in with a little bit of highlight just on the top of this, or just in where these sort of rocky areas are. Just got a bit of mixed in some titanium white, a little bit of orange, and a bit of touch of burnt umber. And just, you know, you don't need to get it all done in one hit. It's you can keep working over and over it until you get it right. So don't feel that you need to get it done at the first attempt. I'll probably use a few different techniques until I find the one that works best for me. Okay, let's try and define those shaded areas a bit more. Okay, so now I'm just putting in a harder line where that mountain meets the sky. Just it's mainly sort of a blue line, but I just want to get a slightly harder edge. By adding a slightly darker line around there, because it makes it more contrasty, it makes it look sharper. So now I'm just finishing off by adding a little bit more detail to the trees that you've got on there. Colour is not quite right, but I actually think it's fine. I don't think it'll matter too much. I'm just trying to, because they're very sharp at the moment, I want to add a little bit more detail, but at the same time making them look a bit softer, so this should work quite well. I'm just stippling paint on with the other hog brush I showed you earlier. But pretty much there. Not a lot left to do. Now the majority of it is in. It's just about refining it. I mean, even at this point, if the colours aren't quite right, or if they don't look right once I've got some of the foreground put in, then you can always go over it with a glaze and change the colour a little bit, or just add to it a little. So I think that is pretty much all we need for that. I don't know that I need to add any more detail. In fact, probably what I will do is I may well soften it a little bit. Because it is in the distance, I don't want it to look too sharp, and that's come out just a little bit sharper than I would have liked. So I've just got a fan brush now, nice and soft, and I'm just going to take off the tops of the paint just to smooth it out a little bit. It's not going to make a massive difference, but it'll be enough. Well, there we go. I think that will do for now. I'm going to start working on this other bit here, and then tomorrow I'll show you how I'm going to build up on these trees here and get that bank in, and possibly also these trees here as they extend off to the edge of the picture. Let me give you a view of the whole of the picture as it is at the moment. Yes, I'm quite pleased with that, and we'll carry on working on that tomorrow, and should get most of it done. I think we'll certainly get the trees done. The water maybe on Wednesday, maybe tomorrow, but probably Wednesday. We'll see how we go. We'll see you tomorrow.